these bundles right here that you could afford before are no longer an option because of the price increase. For the income increase, before you got grandma's extra $4, you could afford this set of bundles right here. But now income shifts out the budget constraint parallel. The marginal rate of transformation is the same, and you're getting this whole other possible set of bundles you can afford and consume. Now here's the question to check your intuition. Is there a difference between doubling income and having all prices? Right? So if everything's on sale at 50%, is that going to give you a different budget constraint than if I double income and I leave prices constant? It's the exact same thing, right? So whether I double your income or I have all prices, meaning cut all prices by 50%, it's going to give you the exact same budget constraint, right? Check that out. Just draw it at home and convince yourself. The same thing goes in the opposite direction. If I cut your income by half or I double all prices, the impact on the budget constraint is exactly the same. So if all prices double or increase by the same proportion or decrease by the same proportion, the marginal rate of transformation will also stay constant, right? Because it'll be 2PR over 2PH, and the 2 cancels out, so the marginal rate of transformation is the same. What I just said seems obvious, but I will mess with you on the first midterm based on this concept, and you will curse my name, all right? So this is a really good thing to figure out and understand well. So, are you ready for this? This is a tough one. All right, take my cell phone out of my pocket. Have anything else in my pocket? Oh, credit cards. Right, that's where they went. This one's going to be tough. Actually, not at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to derive the demand curve. Right? We started this class by saying supply and demand are the single most important model, and from Econ 1 you sort of remember some indifference curves and demand came out, and then you shifted it around in bizarre ways, and you were supposed to understand the world better. But what I want to show you now is that demand really just comes out of a set of budget constraints and indifference curves. Budget constraint is a perfectly reasonable representation of scarcity. It just means all the income you have, you spend on all the goods possibly available to you at shares. The income you have determines the set of bundles you can afford. Your preferences tell you how much you like different combinations of goods relative to each other, and you're going to make yourself as well off by choosing a bundle that you can still afford that gets you on the highest indifference curve possible. So I'm going to show you that simply doing this gets you the demand curve. So what I want to do is I'm going to draw 3 different budget constraints, and then I show you the optimal consumption on these 3 budget constraints, and then I'll show you how that maps into a demand curve. So what we're going to do is I'll write this down on the blackboard here so we can remember it, okay? Income, I'm going to hold fixed at $20. The price of Reese's, I'm going to hold fixed at $2, and then I'm going to give you 3 different prices of Hershey's. $10, $5, and $2. The reason I write this down on the board here is I'm going to zoom in because I can, so we can draw our indifference curves nice and big. Let me zoom in a little more. Here we go. I'm still not good at this, but I'm feeling more comfortable with this technology. We're going to do a little vote in about 2-3 lectures to see if we should scrap it and just stick with the blackboard or stick with this. So, if you're annoyed, you'll get some input. So, on the x-axis here, this is the top panel in the slide, and that's on the website right here. What I want to do now is I want to plot the 3 budget constraints that a level of income of $20, price of Reese's of $2, and these 3 different prices of Hershey's give rise to. So, I'm going to put Reese's up here, Hershey's right here. Here we go. If I spend all my money on Reese's, how many Reese's can I buy? $20, $2 a piece, 10. So that's how many Reese's I can buy. If the price of Hershey's is $10, they're really expensive. How many Hershey's can I buy? 2. Okay? So the first budget constraint that I can draw here looks something like this. Let's see how we do. Nope. One more time. That looks slightly better, not perfect, but it's like, oh yeah, come on, Max. Give yourself some credit. That wasn't terrible. Okay, that's the first budget constraint. Now if the price of Hershey's drops to $5, how many Hershey's can I buy? 4. How many Reese's can I buy? 10, right? So I can continue to buy 10 Reese's, but Hershey's I can now buy 4. So the second budget constraint looks something like, I'm cheating a little bit here. There we go. Good enough. Straight line. Third budget constraint, of course, is going to be still the same amount of Reese's, 10. The Hershey's I can now buy also 10. So big rotation of the budget constraint. Okay. This here is price of Reese's 2, price of Hershey's 10, price of Reese's 2, price of Hershey's 5, price of Reese's 2, price of Hershey's 2. All right? Pretty neat. So as Hershey's become less expensive, the budget constraint swings out. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that Max has a 20 in his pocket. He's going to go out shopping for when both goods cost the same, $2. Then he's going to try and go out shopping when Reese's are $2 and Hershey's are 5. And then he's going to go out shopping when Reese's are $2 and Hershey's are 10. And I'm going to look at the highest indifference curve he can get on, given that he wants to be on the budget constraint in the world he faces. So let's draw some of Max's indifference curves. I'm nervous. Can you tell? I'm sweating here. All right. Gross, Max. Okay. This is my optimal consumption bundle number 1. Okay? Now, if the price of Hershey's is the same as the price of Reese's, $2 each, I have $20. The optimal consumption bundle here, you can read this right off this amazing grid I drew you, is roughly 5.5. Now, if he faces the price of Hershey's that is $5, his optimal consumption bundle, okay, remember that indifference curves are downward sloping everywhere, and don't cross others. His optimal consumption bundle is somewhere here. Right? This is the highest indifference curve I can get on. That's still tangent to this budget constraint where Reese's cost 2 and Hershey's cost 5. And now if he goes out shopping in this horrible world where Hershey's are $10 a bag, you can do it, Max. Shouldn't have said that. Let's try that again. Cheating a little bit here. Ignore what's happening at the very top here. It sort of looks like it's spending. It's supposed to be dropping everywhere. All right? The optimal consumption bundle here, bless you, is this one right there. I'm only interested on what's happening with Hershey's right now, right? So ignore what's happening with Reese's. So what I'm going to do is, at the price of Hershey's of $2 a piece, I'm going to figure out how many units I'm consuming, a little bit more than 5 here. By just drawing a straight line down, at $5 for Hershey's, I'm going to consume about 2.5. And at this ridiculously high price here, I'm going to consume a little bit less than 1. Okay, so this here is H1, H2, and H3. H3 is the optimal consumption of Hershey's, given you have $20 of income, Reese's costs 2, Hershey's costs 2. H2 is the optimal consumption of Hershey's, given that you have $20 to spend, Reese's $2, Hershey's costs $5. H1 is the optimal consumption of Hershey's, given that you have $20, Reese's costs 2 a bag, and Hershey's costs 10 a bag. Now, when you look at the Wall Street Journal and they plot demand curves, do they ever plot stuff that looks like this? No way. What does a demand curve look like? It's a straight line, or sometimes it's not a straight line, but a demand curve usually looks something like this. What's on this axis for a demand curve? Price. And what's on this axis here? Hershey's, right? Or quantity. So what's on the axis here? What's on the y-axis in this picture? Reese's. And what's on the x-axis? Hershey's. So the thing I've got figured out, the part I know is quantity of Hershey's. If I wanted to plot price of Hershey's against Hershey's, oh no, Max, this is horrible. You did something terribly wrong. We can't draw a demand curve from this. Can you see? Right? This here is the price that goes with H1. This here is the price that goes with H2. And this here is the price that goes with H3. Wow! Your fake level of enthusiasm is highly annoying, Max. I know, but it's almost lunchtime. Otherwise, you won't pay any attention at all. Okay. So can I take what I have in this picture up here and draw a demand curve from it? Yes, I can. All right. So what am I going to put on the x-axis here? Hershey's. I'm going to put Hershey's right here. And I'm going to put the price of Hershey's on the y-axis. What 3 different levels of prices have I looked at? I've looked at a price of Hershey's of 10. I've looked at a price of Hershey's of 5. And I've looked at a price of Hershey's of $2. Okay? At $2, how many units of Hershey's was I consuming? There's no real number, right? I was consuming H3 units. So to me, a conservative estimate here is 5.378 units of Hershey's, all right? So H3 units at a price of $2. So what can I do? I can do it. This is always great when it happens right at an important point. There we go. I can draw a line down from H3, right? This is a straight drop down. This is the number of units I'm consuming with an income of 20, a price of Hershey's of $2, and a price of Reese's of $2. And I know what the price of Hershey's is. It's $2, right? So if I draw the line across here, what is this? This is my quantity demanded at a price of Hershey's of $2, holding the price of Reese's constant at 2 and income constant at 20. Okay, what about the $5 price combo? Well, when Hershey's were 5, Reese's were 2, and income was 20, I consumed H2 units, right? That was my optimal consumption level. So let's do that. It's supposed to be a straight line. And the price was $5. So what's that? That's the optimal quantity demanded at Hershey's price at $5, holding the price of Reese's constant at 2 and income constant at 20. So just to be clear, these quantities here, this here is H3, this here is H2. Last one, at a price of $10 of Hershey's, holding the other stuff constant right here, I was consuming H1 units. And price was $10 up here, which is the top part of my graph. So this is my third point. So what do I have? I have 3 dots. One that tells me the optimal quantity demanded at a price of Hershey's of $10. The second one here tells me the optimal quantity demanded at a price of Hershey's of $5. The third one here tells me the optimal quantity demanded at a price of Hershey's at $2. Holding everything else constant. What did I hold constant in the background? Income and price of Reese's, right? So the only thing I changed is the price of Hershey's, and now I can trace out the optimal quantity demanded for different prices of Hershey's, holding everything else constant. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, this deserves a highlight, because it's so awesome. Why don't you let me highlight? I tried to show off. It won't work. But do you see this? What's this thing? Can we give it a name? This is the demand curve. Isn't that amazing? Where did demand come from before I answer your question? It came from scarcity in the form of your budget constraints and 3 teeny-weeny assumptions on your preferences: completeness, transitivity, and non-satiation. And what did I get? I got a mapping of prices into your optimal quantity demanded, which we can aggregate up into an aggregate quantity demanded for Hershey's, campus-wide, nationwide, and so on, which we will do. But this is a really important picture. This means there's a downward sloping relationship between the price of a good and the quantity of the good demanded that essentially maps how many units an individual is going to want to buy at any given price. Right? This is a really important concept, which we're going to mess with quite a bit. So before I answer the question in the back, I just want to quickly give you where we're taking this next. Things we're going to want to know about these demand curves is, how sensitive to price changes are you? Right? If you are an insulin-dependent diabetic, how sensitive to price is your consumption to insulin? Not very much, right? You're going to pay whatever it takes to get the insulin, within, given that you can afford it. How sensitive to price do you think the consumption for champagne is? Pretty darn sensitive, right? So how price sensitive the demand for different commodities is going to depend on how steep or flat this demand curve is. And the reason we care about this is, for example, do we want people to smoke? You guys are exhausted. Do we want people to smoke? No, right? I walked with my 5-year-old into a restaurant in Germany, and somebody was smoking, and my 5-year-old asked, what's this person doing? He had never seen a person smoking before in his life, which I think is pretty neat. But the point I'm trying to make here is, if we're going to tax cigarettes, how that affects people's optimal choices, meaning whether they're going to quit or not, is going to depend on the price sensitivity of demand. Hold still, one more second. There's a question in the back. I couldn't have said it any better, right? So where these tangencies happen here on these budget constraints, Depends on your preferences. And we're going to do something called the income and substitution effect, which is going to drive you mad and your GSIs crazy. So we will play with this quite a bit more. But we're done for today. I will see you on Thursday. Have a nice Wednesday and Tuesday. And yeah, that's it.